So let's dive into a really fascinating paradox. We often think of freedom as coming from one of two places. On one hand, there's conquering the world, building your career, your business, your empire. On the other, there's letting it all go, releasing your ego, finding that inner peace. But what if the very things that make someone a master of that first path actually cause them to totally reject the second? And that brings us to the big question, right? Is true freedom really found in winning the game of life through strategy and real, measurable results? Or is it found in quitting the game entirely? Dissolving your ego and just merging with the whole? These two ideas seem to be in a constant tug-of-war. And believe it or not, this isn't just some philosophical debate. The data shows something kind of shocking. There's a negative correlation of minus 0.2226 between that drive for worldly achievement and defining freedom as spiritual transcendence. So what does that even mean? Well, put simply, the more you are wired to win the game, the less likely you are to believe that true freedom comes from quitting it. Why is that? To solve this puzzle, we're going to need a map of human belief systems. The tool we'll be using is a model of evolving values that helps us understand why different people can look at the exact same world and see completely different things. That model is called spiral dynamics. Now, it suggests that our consciousness evolves through a series of stages, or vMEMEs. The easiest way to think about them is like operating systems for your mind. Each one has its own unique worldview and its own definition of what's important. And the goal here isn't to judge which one is better, but just to understand why people's values can be so fundamentally different. Okay, so let's just run through a few of these stages real quick. You've got the purple stage, which is all about tribe, tradition, and belonging. Then comes the blue stage, which is focused on order, rules, and duty. Then you have the green stage, which prioritizes community, equality, and social well-being. And then there's orange. This one is all about logic, strategy, and individual achievement. And that's the one we're really going to dig into today. All right, let's zoom in and really get inside the mindset that's at the heart of our paradox, the orange value system. You can think of this as the engine of ambition, innovation, and honestly, a huge chunk of our modern world. So, the orange worldview is all about pragmatism. It's logical, it's results-oriented. It trusts what can be measured, what can be tested, what can be proven. From this perspective, freedom can't be some fuzzy, abstract feeling. No way. It has to be something tangible. It's about progress you can actually track and success you can quantify. And this is where the collision happens. When the orange mindset is faced with the idea of transcendental freedom, merging, dissolving, letting go, it doesn't see liberation. It sees a total loss of control. It sees a loss of agency. It's literally the erasure of the very self that it has worked so hard to build and sharpen to achieve its goals. For someone running on this operating system, giving up your ego is like a master surgeon throwing away their scalpel. It makes no sense. And this quote just nails it. For Orange, liberty flows through competence, not surrender. See, for this worldview, the ego isn't some problem to be overcome. It's an asset to be honed. Liberty isn't a state you dissolve into. It's a position of power you build through skill and strategy. In this game, surrender isn't peace, it's failure. Competence is freedom. But, the orange view is just one piece of this puzzle. Let's zoom out and see how these other value systems define freedom, because you'll see their answers are just as consistent within their own logic and completely different from orange. Okay, this data is just wow. For the purple worldview, freedom has a positive correlation with fulfilling one's duty to the tribe. For green, it's tied to social justice. But now, look at orange again. That correlation with transcending the ego is negative, right? But then jump ahead to turquoise, a later, more complex developmental stage. It comes back to the exact same idea of transcending the ego, but now with a strong positive correlation. It's the same concept that orange flat out rejects, but now it's seen from a completely new, more integrated perspective. So the key takeaway here is that orange's rejection of transcendence isn't some kind of mistake or flaw. It's a core feature of its mental operating system. It's a logical and totally predictable stage in this developmental journey. Each stage has its own definition of freedom, and from inside that worldview, it's completely valid. But all of this brings up a much deeper question. If orange freedom is all about winning, what's the ultimate nature of that achievement? Is it a launch pad to something greater, or can it become its own kind of cage? And here's the counterargument.
Some critics would say that the very pursuit of success can become a trap. This constant need to achieve, to compete, to validate yourself through external wins, well, it can build a prison. A very comfortable and well-decorated one for sure, but a prison nonetheless.
So let's break this down. That so-called autonomy of the high achiever, well, it often depends on market forces and what other people think. That independence, it requires constantly looking over your shoulder at your competitors. This whole cycle can be fueled by a deep status anxiety, not a real sense of liberation. And it's why you hear that classic story, right? The person who gets everything they ever wanted only to look around and feel completely empty inside.
And this, right here, is the ultimate paradox. The key to escaping this golden cage might actually be embracing the very thing the orange worldview dismisses, transcendence. It's not about abandoning your ambition, but about integrating it with a deeper sense of awareness. It's about learning that letting go of your ego doesn't destroy your ability to strategize. It just frees it from the compulsive need to win at all costs.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Look at your own ambition, your own definition of freedom. Is it a tool for liberation, pushing you toward a more meaningful life? Or has it slowly become the bars of a beautiful cage that you're just endlessly decorating? The answer might tell you everything you need to know.